Hopefully, this is my last video on Malika Andrews. She responded to the backlash she's received over the years on Demar Derozan's podcast. Take a look.
You've heard me say this before, I always say, I want to be two things. I want to be accurate and I want to be fair.
For sure, yeah.
And if I'm not one of those two things, you might not always like me, but this is my number, please call me. And it is hurtful. Like, I think that's okay to say sometimes. It hurts. Even, it doesn't matter if it is someone who is credible or someone with a big platform, or if it's someone in their mom's basement just firing off a post. Sometimes it is hurtful when that seeps through, particularly for me when it's not true.
Right. And
that's been the hardest part for me sometimes, is stomaching the falsehoods, particularly, you know, this you hate black men, or think that couldn't be farther from the truth, and using my family or the way that my family looks as some sort of evidence of that. And that is just untrue.
For sure.
And is just unkind. And you know, we all have jobs to do, and we do our best. I try to do my best to show up every day in a way that you guys know what I'm about. And that doesn't mean that I've covered every story perfectly. It doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes, but I think I'm pretty good at saying to you guys in particular, could have been better there.
First of all, I don't think NBA fans just wanted to hate on Malika Andrews. Everything was in response to her actions. I also think she's downplaying what took place during that time. Allow me to refresh your memory. It started off as disrespect towards her colleagues and NBA players. I have an entire compilation of just that on my channel.
You can't look at a person. Yeah, but you're making an assumption.
Yes, you can.
You can't look at a person and know what their intent was. It was a dangerous play regardless, but you can't. Okay. I didn't realize we had a bunch of mind readers on the panel. Please continue.
From there, it went to smearing NBA players and coaches, whether they were dead or alive, bringing up anything negative from their past, and it didn't matter if it was proven true or not.
Former Michigan State star Adrian Payne was shot and killed in Orlando, Florida, early Monday morning, the Orange County Sheriff's Office said. And Payne was the 15th pick by the Atlanta Hawks in 2014, played 4 seasons in the NBA with multiple teams. In 2018, he was waived by the Magic after he was named in a report by ESPN's Outside the Lines that he'd been involved in an alleged sexual assault at Michigan State in 2010. No charges were filed in that case. He played for West Virginia between 2006 and 2011, and now could become the NBA's youngest head coach at 34 years old. And we'd be remiss not to also mention that Missoula was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault. He pled guilty, paid a fine, and then again in 2009 for domestic battery after an incident at Morgantown Bar. The domestic battery case never went to trial. It was settled in August of 2009. He paid a $100 fine and court costs, plus had to do 40 hours of community service. Now, that was 13 years ago. He settled and paid both fines.
And I've heard some people say, well, it's the network. She has to do her job. But for one, if you look at her emotion and intent during some of these interactions, it's pretty obvious that it wasn't always ESPN. And the network never told her to call into First Take and accuse Stephen A. of being a misogynist. She did that on her own.
Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. The fact that it was able to go on all day, the fact that we are sitting here debating whether somebody else should have been suspended or not, we are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
The problem that I have right now, everybody got to be held accountable.
I think that we need to circle back to what Shanae said, is that there was an investigation that was conducted by an independent law firm here.
And it wasn't the network's fault that she accused Jalen Rose of harassment. That was all Malika too.
Get your finger out of my armpit. We're just happy to see Jalen Rose. Get your finger out of my armpit.
And let me tell y'all something that's very, very direct and clear, so ain't no gray area. I didn't put my finger under her armpit. If you look at the picture, I only got 4 fingers and 1 thumb, and they on her shoulder.
There's one thing she's right on. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But if you bring up old dismissed allegations and attack your colleagues publicly, then you should apologize and take accountability publicly. There may be individuals that take it too far, but the overall negative sentiment towards Malika has been warranted. Even Giannis, one of the nicest players in the NBA, walked out of an interview just because she was the one asking the question.
Malika Andrews, ESPN. For both of you guys, I'm curious, you guys have talked a lot about how at this point, sometimes it takes experience. I'm wondering if now that you have some of that experience, if you see more validity to that point, or what you think about that now that you've gone through it.
Good.
Malika Andrews is going the same route as Ellen DeGeneres, making herself the victim instead of taking accountability for the things that she's done wrong.